Slightly Above Average Gamers, Way Above Average Podcast. Welcome to the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast with your hosts, J007TV and Sub1KD. I don't know if that went live. What the hell? It's a thing. Whatever.
Well,
send it.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 90 of the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. I am J007TV, joined, as always, by the one and only Sub1KD. What's up, man?
Oh, man, it's been a morning. I'll tell you that. We have a batch of puppies we're dealing with, so every morning is a treasure for me. Cleanup duty. It's awesome. Man. But otherwise, yeah, some technical issues. So we got a late start today. Apologize for that.
My
fault. I'm watching on the stream. Of course, the jingle did go live and I screwed it up. It's a big mess. That's okay. What a morning for everybody. We're W morning. W wins across the board. But otherwise, yeah, no, doing well. The kids have finished school, so now chaos will ensue for the next 3 months or so. Shipping the oldest off to like 4 different camps this year, so that'll be fun. And then yeah, otherwise just business as usual. How are you, buddy?
Well, I'm good, aside from the technical issues that I had this morning. And I honestly don't know why. I may, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I might have messed something up when I had to change the browser, because so like for Stream Deck, right? Like my shout out thing wasn't working. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you have to go back in there and reauthorize and reconnect everything.
Yeah.
But it pulls a pop-up and some of the browsers are not supported. So I had to change the default browsers. So I'm wondering if maybe I didn't mess it up there, but then that still doesn't explain the Microsoft family crap through Edge, where I can't even open the Riverside website. That's so stupid.
So you broke it.
Yeah, okay. Maybe. I don't know, dude. I don't know. But you know what? Other than that, this week I was in San Antonio for a conference Monday and Tuesday. It was first time attending that conference. It was pretty sweet. I got to go down on the Riverwalk and hang out at an Irish pub for 2 nights and a piano bar. So that was cool. Nice. And had some really good Mexican food, and got back Wednesday. And so now just vibing, kind of going through the routine. It'll be a little bit different today. I don't have to go help tear down because my wife and her friend are starting a new venture and doing mocktails. So
that's right.
Yep, and they're doing that tonight at a night market, so I won't be helping her with that. But other than that, man, just been gaming a little bit. Got some ranked in yesterday. I got to run like 2 ranked matches before Drade was like, my heart's just not in this, because he wanted to go play fucking Splitgate, which we're going to talk about later. So
yeah.
Anyway, how's your game? How has Warzone been for you this week?
Well, playing some morning ranked. So it's been busy. It's been end of term for me. If you don't recall, I'm finishing my master's, so I've got a couple more classes left to go, but it was end of term, so busy there, busy at work, busy at just about everything. So I haven't had nearly as much morning time as I like to dive into it, but kind of in the middle of the week, I actually went and decided after the last episode's technical issues, where right in the middle of what I wanted to say, I got blue screened again, which turns out to have been a BIOS problem with my motherboard. Decided screw it. I have 2 PCs. One of them is very good and one of them is pretty good. And I don't know why I'm screwing around with it, because I'm not streaming. Like, I just don't stream gameplay anymore. So, parted out the old workstation and have that going, selling that off. And then have spent the good part of the week kind of recombining and rebuilding my space so that I have 1 PC and all the monitors. And it's been good. Discovered that OBS will rob about 80 frames off of Warzone, which is hilarious. But yeah, no, it's been good, and did manage to get some games in. Finally played a little bit of ranked. Played some afternoon ranked, and it was awful. Literally had one guy reverse boosting, and I had another guy. Hacking his balls off. It was awesome. In the same match, right? So I had like one guy just driving in circles, trying to get people to kill him, and the other guy, and then I'm trying to push a guy, and he's just like watching me through the wall the entire time. And as soon as I pop out, he's already pre-firing. You know how it goes. And I'm like, that's cool. Hopped into a 9:30 game, and it was like, I don't know, put up a bunch of kills, 500 points, went all the way to gold 2 in one game. It was awesome. Really enjoyed that match. And then and then played a little bit yesterday at about like 10:30, and it was kind of a mixed bag, but positive SR all around. So, ranked has been okay. Just continuing the camo grind when I can. Otherwise, Warzone is kind of it's doing its Warzone thing right now.
So, you see, we got our previous guest in the chat. First time chatter, Cup of Joe. What's good, my dude? What up, Big Mike? What's going on, fellas?
So, but yeah, it's good. How's Warzone? So Warzone doing okay for you?
Yeah, actually, it is. I forget. I think it was Wednesday, so I didn't play Monday or Tuesday. I got back. I did play Wednesday, and I ended up getting a solo resurgence win. Very first and only match of the day I played over there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a nice little 17 kill win. I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah,
or burger material.
I find that quite good.
So yeah, I got that win. Too bad it doesn't fucking count.
Yeah, you're having issues with your stats. My stats are counting, unfortunately, for the ones getting slammed. Those counted. So I don't know what's up with that, but mine are counting for sure.
Yeah, it's not counting. I need to check and see, because I think Lizard Not got a duos win last night too, and I need to double check and see if that counted. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is.
Sometimes it takes like I've seen it take up to like a day to update. It's weird. Their stats are broken. I don't know how you can be a AAA studio and have broken stats in your game. I mean, I guess it's still a step above not including them at all.
Right.
Battlefield. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Season 4 update is rolling along rather well, all things considered, but there hasn't been much. I mean, the Season 4 update was better than Season 3 Reloaded, obviously. Fair share of bugs, so we're back to that. Season 3 was a unicorn, apparently. But you mentioned number 2. Who was it?
Lizard.
Was it Lizard going to Splitgate?
No, Drade
went over to Splitgate. Have you looked at it?
No, I installed Steam earlier to just. I'll probably take a look at it today, but I mean, from kind of what I'm seeing a little bit is like, I don't know if it's for me, honestly. Yeah. I hope it does well, but I just don't know that it's for me.
I'll tell you where I am on it. From what I've seen, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's not. This is not a knock on the game. If you like the game, I like that you like the game. I don't like that style of game. I prefer the realistic looking game where physics makes sense somewhat, where the visual feel and the feel of the game is grounded in reality in some form or another. Like, that's the kind of game that I prefer. I'm not saying I prefer a mil sim. I'm just saying, like, that's like Call of Duty. It's one of the appeals of Call of Duty is it's always fairly realistic. Like, you could play the game and you can sit there and be like, yeah, I can imagine this game existing. Wildlands was like that too. Tom Clancy's Wildlands, very similar, where you play it, and even though it's got some future tech tossed in that wasn't quite there yet in reality, it wasn't far off. It was really not very far away from where we are today in the battlefield. And honestly, it just felt better. Splitgate does not feel good, and from what I've seen, The style of the BR is really not it. It doesn't vibe as something that I'm going to enjoy. I will try it this week. I'm going to find some time to install it, give it a run, so that at least I can speak from direct experience. But from watching it, I just don't see that being. It's like Modern Rivals, right? Like people love that game. Game does well. Not for me. The hero shooter is not my style. So I think for me, it's going to be a pass. But people are enjoying it. I think the BR purists are not going to really enjoy the BR much. From what I've seen and what I've read, it really comes across as a kind of like an advanced multiplayer, advanced TDM, and so it's just this like kind of a bizarre take on BRs, which good for them for trying something. I it's good to have it's good to try new things, right? Like we get stale, and then everybody complains that it's stale. And the reality is, it's because nobody wants to try anything new, but not everything new is it. I
mean, partially I feel like I'm guilty of that, but at the same time, I'm not. I mean, I gave X Defiant a run. I have installed and uninstalled Apex like 7 or 8 times on my, on my different PCs that I have. Like I do try other things, but I do always go back to Call of Duty at the moment. With that said, if Battlefield is good, whether it's got a BR or not, if that game is good, I'm playing it for sure. I'm not going to say I'm going to sit here and main it, but I'm going to play it. Like it's, I had 1,900 hours in Battlefield 4. Didn't really care for Hardline that much, and didn't play the World War I or World War II versions because
Battlefield 1 was lit. For a world, you would think World War I, defined by trench warfare, would be boring to play, with the primary weapons being bolt action rifles. But Battlefield 1 was really well done. It was really well conceived. The setting was phenomenal. They had the introduction of the airship system made the matches really dynamic. They were able to pull weapons from the era to make the game kind of feel a little better from that point of view. And generally speaking, I mean, just the game was really fun. I put, I don't know, probably 1,000 hours on it.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't. I just, my thing is I prefer a more like current or close to current day type of stuff. Like, World War II. I played Call of Duty World War II. And, while we're talking about that, we may as well talk about next episode, because that game was made by Sledgehammer Games. Call of Duty World War II was. And next Wednesday, right? It's
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
At 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we get the privilege to sit down and visit with Greg Reisdorf, who is the former creative director at Sledgehammer Games.
Yep. He's one of the instrumental ones in bringing games into the bringing Call of Duties of that era to life, and is currently working on some new projects that are going to be super interesting to talk about. And I think that's going to be a great episode. So mark your calendars. We are going to talk to him about that, about all things gaming. And so if you have any interest at all on what goes on behind the scenes and what's going on in the industry now, definitely tune into that. But, talking about the industry and the things that don't go well, Arc Raiders has officially taken the crown this year of screwing the pooch.
Yeah, did you see that they acknowledged that though? And
at least they acknowledged it.
They owned it. I mean, on one hand, it's not like they came out and said they were doing that. People just assumed.
Okay. Look, they put up a countdown. They gave Easter eggs. They've done they've done this before with previous games. The studio has.
What studio is it again?
Oh, I forget the name of it, but they had a previous game, and they literally, they stealth dropped it on an awards night or something, as kind of a haha, look at us. And so they set a precedent for this, and they had little hints and Easter eggs and like little things that something was coming during this thing, and they put a bunch of stuff in this. The other thing they did is they submitted a bunch of stuff to the store, to Xbox, to PlayStation, to Steam for, you know, achievements and ratings and stuff. So like they set the game up, like they set all the pieces up to drop the game, and let people run wild with it. And then the big announcement came, and they said the game releases October 30th.
That's a mistake. That is a big mistake. I really wish
huge.
These studios would pay. I know because they're wanting the greedy Christmas money or whatever, or close to the holiday money. But like, Jesus, stop trying to, like, it doesn't work out to launch a game in the same window as Call of Duty. It just doesn't. Not if you're trying to be a shooter of any type. It just doesn't make sense. Ideally, if you were to launch it, you would launch it when we're in the downward part of the COD cycle, which is when? Now. See, I think X Defiant made a huge mistake, and that was part of their undoing. And, you know, we should talk about them. They shut down their servers this week. And, you know, it's funny to me, though, that there's still the same clowns out there that, you know, are like, yeah, that's what happens when you don't have SBMM. And it's like, if you take away that game failed because it didn't have SBMM after the last 2 to 3 years of mismanagement of not just that franchise, but several others by Ubisoft, and that's your one takeaway, you are intellectually dishonest, sir.
Okay. We need to come back. I want to come back to this chat, to this conversation about the SBMM portion. I want to do it later in the episode. But X Defiant, I do think that was a part of it. I think it hindered the marketing aspect of it, because that was a big, you know, if you go back and you look at the creators who talked about the game, who hyped the game up, that was a big draw. That was a big draw of the game. What for that demographic was that it did not have SBMM. And so that, in a way, is a form, you know. And I think it's similar to how MW3 screwed up their marketing, where they let the creators push the narrative leading up to the launch. And I mean, Modern Warfare 3 really didn't start marketing until a couple, 2-3 weeks before it actually went live. And when you look at the marketing that led up to that, it was all, quote unquote leaks, which are absolutely not leaked, right? They were just handed to Metaphor and others. And you look at some of the other aspects, and the narrative that ran with it was, this is our time to, we're getting back to COD where we can stomp on bots. Like, that was literally the marketing that drove that game. And it was one of the worst launches we've had in the modern era of COD. And I think that type of marketing, it is not good for wide adoption of a title, right? Like that marketing push. And so the technical issues aside, which, to be honest, most people weren't going to notice. Like, the hyper competitive people would notice because, everything matters for them. For most people, I played, I don't know, 100 hours or something in that game, maybe a little more. It wasn't that bad, right? And I remember playing the beta, and it wasn't that bad. I didn't notice it until people pointed it out. And I'll point, and it didn't feel any worse than COD typically feels, right? Like, it felt on par to my experience, and that's probably because I main Call of Duty, and I'm used to dying around corners. I'm used to servers being crap. I'm used to like that experience where you're going to play the game, and there's going to be scenarios where it's like, I should have won that fight, but I lost it because technical bullshit, right?
Right.
That's not uncommon. And so if you're targeting the Call of Duty audience, which X Defiant did, right? Literally, they created the COD that people wanted for MW2. They had that. And you know what they did? I think I remain convinced that the biggest mistake they made was not just releasing it at the beta. Like, they had the beta right at this time in the COD 2, the Modern Warfare 2 cycle, where everybody hated the game. Nobody wanted to play multiplayer. Nobody wanted to play that game because it felt bad. SBMM was high. There just was no like compulsive. COD was starting to introduce more movement back, but X Defiant's whole argument was, we're going to bring movement back to arcade shooters. We're going to be an arcade 6v6, classic COD feel with all of the Ubisoft assets at our disposal, and we're just going to let it run. And you know what? It would have been fine. They would have launched. They would have had they could have spent the whole year fiddling with the netcode, making money, and instead they punted for a year. Call of Duty course corrected. Modern Warfare 3, for all of its marketing faults, was a very well received, mechanically well received game. People liked the Warzone feel. They didn't care for the map as much, but they liked the Warzone feel. Zombies, open world zombies was a hit for a lot of people. Did very well. The movement was very well received, especially compared to what we had the year prior. And so when X Defiant finally launched, it was like, what is the case? Well, the last thing they had was no SBMM, and that wasn't a sell for the casual players.
And it was in worse shape than it was in the beta too.
Yeah,
like it didn't run as smooth.
It didn't feel any better.
It felt worse.
Given a year, and granted, there was a year separation between the two, but it didn't feel any better.
Right.
So the idea that they were somehow in a better spot, they were not. They should have just gone straight to release, call it a working beta, or a pre-release, whatever you want to call it. Get the game out there, get it in people's hands, get people hyped about it, and you can start adding stuff as you go. And I think that's how you create a core audience before a big release. That's how you carve out people from Call of Duty, is you put the game in front of them when times are low. Look at how many successes we had in that period. You had Fall Guys went free to play in the summer when Call of Duty was at its low point and did phenomenal that year when it came out. You had what was the other one? Pal World, right? Hogwarts Legacy.
The first Splitgate, if I remember correctly, too.
Yeah, I don't remember when that came out, but you just had a lot of these games. You have these games, these summer games that'll hop in. They'll steal audience. They'll steal the audience from Call of Duty and from other games. As those games get kind of stale and long in the tooth, and that's your chance to build a good audience, right? But look at, even Modern Rivals. Where did that come out? That came out in the early start of the year, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and and they beat Verdansk to the punch, so they were out before Verdansk. They hit at a low point,
right?
Which good for them. But it's one of those things of the timing matters, and I think this whole Arc Raiders, which is going to be a more traditional extraction shooter style game, is moving, into a somewhat more crowded environment, and it's going to go toe to toe against Call of Duty, and BO7, which theoretically should have none of the problems that they had with BO6 Warzone. It should just roll right into it. It'll have a good map, and they'll have a lot of stuff going on. And I worry that they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. And somebody questioned me about that. I don't know if you saw that. They were like, since when has a good game ever been outshadowed by Call of Duty? And I'm like,
always.
Every fucking time, dude. Where have you been? Every time.
Traditionally, Battlefield's the only shooter
and
in
they're
this genre
usually a
that can go
spring
toe to toe.
release. They've released in the spring most of the time, if I remember correctly. They weren't releasing around the same launch window as Call of Duty,
which is smart. It's the smart way to do it, and I think that's the big challenge that they're going to have is how do you fight for space in that launch window, and what else is going to launch? I don't even know what's coming out, but I feel like this fall is going to be busy.
Oh yeah,
slightly less busy though because we won't have Grand Theft Auto.
But I mean, for us though, like for in terms of us, we're going to be busy because we should be hitting our 100th episode somewhere around August or September, I think. We're also going to have the World Series of Warzone qualifiers that we'll be covering, as well as the World Series of Warzone finals. I don't really care about the EWC, but we can cover it if people want to hear about it. It's just not it's Resurgence. I don't care. But yeah, so I mean, there's going to be stuff going on, and then we should be hearing more about Black Ops 7 anytime. Like, there should be a next event. Don't they usually have that in like July,
August,
or August?
Yeah,
so
August.
That's going to be coming up. We're going to be covering that. I mean, there's going to be a lot going on, but like just from a games standpoint, and Ubisoft actually teased, which hopefully they won't wreck it, but it looks like they teased a new Splinter Cell game.
It'll be terrible. Everything Ubisoft has touched has been a disaster lately.
What's been going on with Assassin's Creed? I have not heard good or bad about that game in months.
I mean, it was highly controversial because of decisions they made. Sales from what I heard, were not good. But nobody freaking cares.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a it doesn't appeal. So here's my take on it. The samurai, what's his name? Usubi or whatever his name is, I forget. Yasuki.
Call him Steve.
No, I think it's Yasuki. Like the whole appeal of him contradicts Assassin's Creed. The whole concept of Assassin's Creed.
Because it's not brute force.
Every game is literally like, no one knows you're an assassin. No one knows you're like a skilled warrior. You just kind of meander around and blend in and look like everybody else. And then you find some clever way to assassinate a target. Like, that's the point. And then you've got all the dynamic movement that goes with it, right? Like, that's the whole point of Assassin's Creed. It has been since day one, and you're going to mess with the formula and create a character that just literally will bulldoze through everything and just kill everything in its path. Which, granted, that's how I play the game, but it's not how the game was designed, right? Like, that's that style of play is contrary to the entire history of the game. And I think that's problematic at the end of the day to the game. And so I think that's hurt its launch. I think there's definitely issues with that. As far as, what else has Ubisoft done? They've nothing. Like, nothing they've released has been worth it.
So again, it just shows they're mismanaging these IPs. Like, and that was a big reason for the failure. How we started this segment on X Defiant. That's part of how they fail, and why. And I mean,
blame Truth. Blame Truth himself. He opined repeatedly that he thinks that they intentionally set these games up to fail to drop their stock price so that they can be an easier acquisition. Which, given Tencent now owns, I forget what part of it, what percentage, but they own some percentage of the company now, and I think they're there's probably some truth to that. They're probably working hard to not be to not be as successful as they should be, for the express purpose of getting their price down and getting bought out, because I don't know, they just don't want to make games anymore.
Yeah, I guess not.
So, yeah. So Splinter Cell will probably be a disaster, but
who knows, man?
Look, I don't want these things to be disasters. I mean, I want to see so much success, because the industry is best. The industry is at its best when every genre is full of competing titles and there's no universal crowned king. Because when you do that, then everything will be bad. Everything will be problematic. See the status of Call of Duty right now.
I don't think we knew how good we had it back in like Modern Warfare 2, the original Modern Warfare 2, like that 10-year stretch for all those games. I don't think we realized just how good we had it, compared to now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we had it good. But so, well, Arc Raiders at October. So we'll see how that does. So Warzone is doing well-ish, all things considered. Cheating is kind of doing its thing again. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, the game is mechanically sound. It's running pretty well, all things considered, minus your stats situation. I haven't had any massive problems. Most of the annoying bugs they've kind of patched up from Season 3 Reloaded. And I don't know, did they I mean, they fixed a lot of the issues with Season 4 launch. Any outstanding problems that you can think of?
Well, I mean, the playlist, or lack of pubs playlist. There's duos or
that's
quads.
not a problem. That's decision making.
But
that's
I mean,
that's not a bug.
Well, not really a bug. I guess I don't know. No, none that I can really think of. I haven't really run into any huge issues. Over the last few days.
What do you think of the new building?
So, it's cool. It was so fucking hilarious, dude. Lizard and I were running duos the other day, and I had him drop there, and he's killing like fucking literally everybody. But he was like, "Oh my god, get me out of here! Like, can we please leave?" And I'm like, "Yes, let's get the fuck out of here." It was hilarious, dude. I was laughing my ass off. But I mean, it's a cool building. It does have like you can. With a sniper, you can probably kill anyone from anywhere on the map from that point. Like it's that high.
It's high. It's really high.
Yeah.
Have you done the Easter egg in it yet?
I don't really do the Easter eggs, dude.
So there's what is it? There's a couple of billiard balls scattered around the top floor in that apartment. And then there are tokens or key cards that you can pick up scattered around again that top level of the kind of scattered in the chests throughout the building. So when you collect the billiard balls and you go into the apartment, there's a pool table and you put them on the rack. There's a rack for the balls, and you put them in there and they show up in a certain order. And then you go, once you have the order, that order's the code. So you remember the order and you run downstairs in the apartment, and there's like a closed door, and you enter the code and it opens, and then there's chests, but the chests need key cards to open, so you have to have looted enough to find the key cards. And so when you open the chests, the first one will dump out specialist for everybody. The next one dumps out like an advanced UAV and stuff, and then there's a loadout.
They had that on Resurgence too. I was playing
stuff like Specialist is back there. So it was it's kind of a fun key card. It's kind of a fun challenge. It takes a few minutes. It's nice to pick up Specialist early, and usually in the process of looting, if you only get one key card and you just get Specialist, you have enough to drop right down to the loadout, or to the buy station at the museum, so you can get that loaded up. It's a fun spot. I think they did a really good job building out that, that structure and kind of revitalizing that downtown, because even though, you can probably hit people from a mile away from up there, which is it's pretty cool. I don't think the bullet velocity is there to realistically hit something unless you're Crossbow Mike or somebody like that who can just hit those long bombs. I think the farthest I hit was like 500 meters off of that. But yeah, it's a good spot. There's a lot of loot. There's enough space there vertically to put like 2 or 3 teams and have them never run into each other. Like I've been on top and I've watched like 3 teams down below like scramble around and fight each other, and I'm like totally uninvolved in that. So it adds a degree of verticality to the map in a way that we haven't had before. I think that's, maybe Damn kind of does that in a way, but it doesn't do it as well. So I think it's cool. I like the building. It's a good addition. RIP your frames when you're there, but otherwise it's a really nice build out on it. Otherwise, not much has changed, which I think is good too, because the flow of the game is pretty good. It's in a good spot. So they don't need dramatic changes to like the flow of the game. Yeah, I mean, otherwise it's the game is in a pretty enjoyable spot. It's nothing new. It's nothing special.
It's been worse, so I'm having fun playing the game. That's people. Money will come in. It'll be like, hey, come play this, come play that. I'm like, no, dude, I'm having fun playing this. So I'm probably not going to want to go play anything else.
Yeah. It's at a point where, we're at that point where we can just have fun playing. For the most part.
I just wish that they'd quit fucking with the playlist, because I'm having to play Solo's Resurgence, which I guess is kind of a decent break. Or doing that for a couple weeks is one thing, because I still have yet to drop into a single match of casual solos. I refuse.
For anybody who hasn't tuned in this week, in season 4 they introduced casual Warzone casual solos, and they actually pulled standard solos from the mode. And it's been an interesting experiment. I think there's a lot of outrage similar to how you experience it, but at the same time, and why is my camera being like this today? There's a lot of experiences similar to how you felt. At the same time, a lot of people are not having issues with the game, I think, at all. They'll play in the mode, they're enjoying it, but it's just been an interesting I don't know, it's been different. I know you've been warming up on Warzone casual, right?
Yeah, solo quads.
So you've had the experience. How have the bots been this week, last week or two?
Actually, a little bit harder, to some degree. I mean, I've had a couple games where like I was in and out of that bitch, like 2 kills, 2 deaths, boom, dead. Like, and that was not happening before. But again, I'm not playing it for that. I'm, sure, there are different reasons, but
you're warming up. Yeah. If I'm in the mode, I'm trying to grind camos. So
yeah. So, but yeah, no, the bots have gotten better. I feel like the squads I've actually run into are better than they had been too in the past. But that's, I mean, it is what it is. It's not. I'm in and out of there anyway. So I've been playing a little more duos, which is kind of sweaty. We've played a little bit of quads, and then we did kind of yesterday. We ran the World Series of Warzone playlist. Like that.
So how was that?
It was fun. Actually, we were laughing because like we had to double check, make sure we weren't in casual. Like the first match or two, we were like, holy shit, but you could play trios. So that's why we were doing it. Like,
do those stats count?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
What's different? Is it just ranked rules without ranked?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it turns out I don't think that they GA'd the HDR either. So that could be interesting.
But it won't one shot though, right?
I don't know.
It shouldn't one shot because it doesn't in ranked.
Yeah, it doesn't in ranked, so it's probably still the same.
They pulled the ranked they pulled the skill set, it should be the same.
But in the hands of somebody, if you're looking at it in terms of just like the World Series of Warzone, like put that in Breadman's hands and it's one shot or
no
not.
Different.
He's gonna
no different than the Signal 50, right?
Yeah, he's gonna fuck that lobby up.
Yeah.
So
but I mean, Signal 50 was the same deal, right?
Yeah.
That year where you just ran that and everybody ran that and just demolished.
Yeah, I liked that Signal 50. I ran that for a little while.
I didn't like it. I don't know. It didn't feel good to me personally. But then again, I prefer like the more traditional sniper style. Like I don't even like the Cat AMR. It feels too slow and bulky.
Yeah, dude. You know what I'm getting bored of though? I'm getting bored of the Krig.
I haven't touched it.
It's still the ultimate meta. Like it's still the meta. Like and you have to run it, and especially in ranked. Like but I tried to run the Kilo the other day. Fucking marshmallows. Like I was getting hit
Well,
marker,
yeah,
yeah.
it's always been marshmallows.
But no, there was a period where it was a little better. Like
No, it's been cope the entire time.
I felt well. I mean, I was using it and getting kills with it. So
Sure, but it was also like, everybody else was using it too.
And the Amax is trash now. I don't think that's any good. The Grow I try. My thing is, dude, I just get bored running the same shit all the time. I want to. I
haven't touched it all season. To be honest, guns. I haven't even picked it up off. I don't think I've picked it up on ground loot.
Really?
Well, because it's as a sniper support, the FFAR is better.
I still haven't maxed that out, but you know what I do like? That LC10's nice.
Oh yes, if you're gonna run close range, I think I just got that Gold Tiger last night. What's the diamond one? The jewel.
Oh, nice.
One. So got that done last night. It's a fun one. I enjoy it. You got to have the bigger mag. The small mag is really tough.
Yeah, that's true. But you mentioned bugs, and I don't know if they fixed this, but you can't put the monolithic suppressor on it or the FFAR, right?
They acknowledged that yesterday or the day before, so that fix should roll out next week. Yeah, that seemed at first some people said it was locked or it was unavailable. You could unlock it. Some people have been able to unlock it. I have not, so I'm still just not able to use it. But yeah, dude, the FFAR is brutally efficient in medium range. As soon as you put a multi-times optic on it, it goes to shit. But if you can run a red dot on it, like, it's brutally effective. I've killed some people with it, and they're like, "What the hell?"
The ground loot ones are pretty solid. I mean, that's one thing too that I don't mind. Like, I like the ground loot that they put in there. Minus the LMGs are still pointless to pick up because I picked one up the other day and I felt like I couldn't hit fucking water if I fell out of a boat with that damn thing.
It was purple like XMG is fantastic.
Yeah. But
it's got the 4X. Like, the problem is they're putting the 4X scope on it with a really terrible optic.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to struggle to stay on target just because you can't see the target at, beyond about 40, 50 meters because the glow of the crosshair just obscures everything.
Dude. Yeah. And you want to know something else too? I don't know what it is right now, but like, we pick the most obscure drop places and they're hot as shit. What the fuck?
Because nobody wants to go to the normal drop places because they're hot as shit.
Well, I mean, they're rotating the high value loot zones. I mean, they've rotated that. I think it's what is it? Superstore, Overlook, and Lumber Hospital. Or Quarry. It's one. I think it's
not Quarry.
It's Lumber then. Yeah. So like they're rotating that, but like we have a drop spot on that, over there by the dam where that restaurant is and everything, and then you can rotate up to PD. Like, we've dropped there. 4 teams land over there with us. We're like, what the hell? I mean, there is a buy station there, but like literally no contracts, no nothing. And it's like,
I think people are trying to get away from like the hot drops these days because it's been so sweaty. But yeah, it's been a little wonky. And the problem is regular mode is just so competitive these days. It's like it's ranked without the rewards. At least Pacific time. At least on Pacific times. It's like every time I load in with some friends, we're just getting slammed all night. Like there's no breathing room in that mode. So I just don't even play it anymore. I'll run ranked and I'll run anything else.
Yeah, I ran
no point.
2 ranked last night because, like I said, Dre dipped out on me.
Yeah.
And we ran 2 ranked, and I think I went plus 17 on the first one, and then like plus 192 on the second one.
Have you run casual mode yet? Or not casual mode? Clash.
Yeah, I ran that a couple times the other day. It was fun, like it was.
You know what they've added to it that ruined it? Third person mode. Did you realize that?
No.
You can toggle third person mode. That's
dumb.
Yeah. So you can't press any corners because all it is somebody just cheesing the corner in third person mode, and then they can see you because they're in third person. and they just, I mean, it was ridiculously, it was so bad. I played last game I played, it was like everybody just sat on stairwells and sat in buildings. Like nobody ran in the open unless they were trying to get into it, and then you couldn't push them out because they would just shouldering the corner, and they could see the whole space, and you couldn't see them at all.
People
So
just use that mode to
pop out.
snipe a lot. Like I do. I don't do shit. Like I'm not out there trying to really gunfight in that mode.
Yeah.
I like it just because it's just fun. Like it's a time killer. I just sit there, get on a building and snipe for fun. See how far I can,
Yeah, it's gonna be, when I get back to trying to run to do snipers again on the camo grind. If that mode is still available, that's probably what I'll use it for. Otherwise, trying to actually play the mode, not enjoyable. So, did not love that, but it is a mode and people do kind of enjoy it. So, hopefully the people that enjoy playing that way are having fun. I didn't care for it. You tried the World Series of Warzone mode. You said that was fun.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun being able to play trios. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, dude. It's like I either have 4 people on or 3. I don't like, you know what I mean? Like only having like it just works out for the amount of people that are on. But I'll be glad when they bring regular solos back because I do like running that too.
I just don't like solos. Solos and me, like I dropped into the casual solos a couple of times and it was like it just was stupid. Even when I did well, I dropped 20 kills my last game. Not a limbs kills. And all I did is sit on a building and snipe everything. Like the only time I left my rooftop was to get more ammo. I don't play it that way. It was so stupid. And it was like the easiest 20 kills I've ever gotten, just sitting there. Oh, there's, it was the building, not the schoolhouse, kind of like across the river from airport. It's not the schoolhouse. There's another building with a peaked roof and then a flat part. Mm-hmm. I forget what that building is called, but I was just on that. Bouncing Betties on the 2 ways up, and then just sat there with a sniper rifle and had a couple of pitched little sniper battles, and I was better than them. And then just slaughtered my way to 10th place, and then the gas pushed me off, and somebody on top of the ridge above me sniped me in the face, and that was the end of that. And it was just like, yeah, I will never touch solos again because it sucks.
Dude, you know what's crazy is like I don't really feel like in any mode that I'm getting sniped a ton. Like I get sniped once in a while. I'm not acting like that, but like I don't feel like
you need to come over to my lobbies. It's like you're in a baseball game and Barry Bonds is swinging the bat again back in the 90s, right? Like flash bulbs everywhere.
Dude, it's just not a big thing to me. But we've talked about this before. I don't play solos the way a lot of people do. I mean, I'm mostly moving. I'll
see in my lobbies. I can't do that. I the first couple of games I tried to move, and it was like off the drop. I picked up something, stepped out of a building, and got my head ripped off from 80 meters away from somebody on top of a building. And the other one I got sniped. Another one I got sniped out of a vehicle. And just forget it. Like find a high point, get a good rifle, find a hhigh point, and just sit there. That's solos.
Yeah, not for me, but to each their own. I'll drop like mill base. I think is probably my favorite drop, like those tents. Mm-hmm. So drop mill base and then just fight, get loady, and then rotate around. Look for trouble. I mean, I don't win a lot. I'm not like great, but I will say this. With all that said, if I get to a point to where I'm looking at zone and I get a read on everything, and there's 15 people left, I'll slow the fuck down, dude, for sure. Like, you know what I mean? Then I start playing for the win.
I mean, you get late game, you want to run it, but it's kind of like, as I said, I've been trying to grind these camos out, because I'm a glutton for punishment, apparently. And it's been interesting in casual mode because the bots are much more difficult. They've gone up the skill and the behavior of them has gone up quite a bit, and they've had me questioning a few times of like, who am I fighting? Am I fighting a bot or not? And it's like there's still enough of, it's now a mixed bag. Like if when it first came out, the bots were easy to spot and easy to pick up, right? They all had the same name style, right? Some capital letters, some words thrown together that kind of make sense, kind of not.
They got
And
to
then more
change.
capital letters.
They got to change how they drop in too. When they redeploy, they fucking hover. Like they got to change. They need to change that behavior. Like make it to where they get on the ground and move. Like they just And then you look and you're like, oh, there's one dead, and then you're like, big deal. Like
the question is what I don't know if that's how all the bots do it though. If it's just like the tier 1 or tier 2 bots, but like the tier 5 bots. So okay, if you missed it on Twitter, since we're going to dive into casual, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So the data miners have come up. Hey, I'm Alex on Twitter released it. Some bits of code that indicate multiple tiers of bots and some adjustable damage profiles for those bots in the game, which is super fascinating. I did a video on that this week, and they're, I think, doing a good job of balancing, the bots. So what they're doing is they basically have, kind of like in multiplayer, when you make a custom game, you can add bots, right? You have different tiers. You have, normal, veteran, rookie, whatever.
Yeah, that's
right?
how I warm up.
You do a mix, right? And so they have different play styles, and they're doing that in these Warzone bots now, where they've got different play styles, different skills, different damage profiles per bot, right? So like a tier 1 bot will do significantly less damage than a top tier bot will, like a tier 5. And I think that's super interesting. And I think it's ultimately a good move on their part to make the experience feel better, because when Warzone Casual dropped on day 1, it was like you would mow through bots like, oh, there's one, whatever. Zero respect for those guys. And now, there's more question about whether or not you're actually facing a bot or not. And I think that's a really interesting take on it. But the more difficult the bots get, the more damage, the more lethal they are. And so that's been an addition, which has really kind of made the mode a little bit less casual in the way, a little bit less like boot camp. So boot camp last year was just miserable bots. They were terrible. And I haven't played it this year, so I don't know. I should just check in and see how it feels in there. But it was like, the bots were all wall licking, no idea what they're doing, just wandering in circles. And you would just, chew them up like nobody's business. And then you run into human players and, have to fight them. In casual now, they've really changed the mix and it feels different. And my theory, my thought of why they're doing this, I think I think we're going to see the end of Warzone pubs as we know it. And it's going to be a form of casual where, it's not a hard set number of bots and it's not a hard set of skill bots. But I think if we're lucky, the way they approach it will be as a replacement for traditional skill-based matchmaking, where lobbies are going, lobbies will be built along skill curves rather than skill brackets, which I think at the end of the day would be a net positive for the game. Whether, some people won't like it, but, Fortnite did the same thing back in 2019. If you recall, they added bots to Fortnite with the idea being we're going to fill lobbies and we're going to marry the quantity of bots to the skill of the lobby, right? So if they build a low skill lobby, they'll only pick a few players, smaller handful of players, and then they'll fill the rest out with bots. And you can go and fight the bots and have a a complete game versus, Call of Duty, which at times struggles to even fill a lobby, right?
Dude, I'm not having a hard time filling. I honestly, ranked takes a little longer, which it always has, the queue times, but like pubs, I'm not having a hard time. Like it's not taking a long time to fill for me, at least not
I mean, but you also
noticeable.
play in Texas during like prime hours, right? So you're like 5 to 10 usually, right?
Yeah.
In Texas. So you are literally like you are in prime time, right? For me, I'm usually Pacific 9:30 plus 9:30 to 11 give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'll have games launch. I'll have pubs games when I try and play. Sometimes it'll take just to get into pubs will take 2-3 minutes, and then we'll have 100 120 players in, sometimes 130. Oceania can barely play. You look at some of the other areas, they can barely even play anything.
Those guys are screwed.
Yeah. So I think your experience is a little bit more balanced in most ways, and that's good. It's good that they are providing that for that place and time where you're at, which makes me jealous a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I'd like to have some nice, easy filled lobbies that aren't sweat fest. But it's just I think the player base has really shifted. We don't have the same player density that we used to have back in the day. Warzone, back in the original Verdansk, density was good, right? We had a lot of people in every time zone playing. So I think, for the health of the game overall, but also, I think Activision at this point and Microsoft can't ignore the problem of SBMM, right? I think SBMM is definitely a problem in the game, right? Would you say, like, I think you would agree with that SBMM, the matchmaking system is not beneficial?
It's as a whole, it's not. This year, it's not fucking me over that much. In Warzone, Modern Warfare 3 Warzone on Urzikstan, that first whole year, it was awful. Because again, as discussed, you and I are right in that, like, we're in that spot where we're getting fucked over, period. Where no matter what, we're getting screwed over. Like we're not in protected lobbies, but we're also not like elite players either. And that's what pisses, that's when it gets really, really fucking rough. But this year it's been better, but still, you're right. SBMM is not good for anybody. And I
don't think it is either. I think too, in order to have a balanced game, you have to have a full skill curve.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, we talked about this, either on the phone or on the last episode or whatever. And that's why, like, to me, when they swing the pendulum too far one way or the other, when it comes to how they're making this game, it's bad for everyone in my mind, because when they find just right down the middle, you don't really cater to anybody. You make a fun game, to where you give everybody something. Like you give, like the casual mode. Like I think that's great for people who want to only play that, but don't do that at the expense of one, and don't lean too far comp side at the expense of the majority.
So
of
if you remember that I made so that I've done the data on it, right, and argued that SBMM as a whole fails, because it fails for two reasons. One, it provides an imbalanced game experience for somebody, right? Whether it's and ultimately the way that Warzone does it is it provides an imbalanced experience for honestly everybody, right? Where you remove the bottom percentage of the player base and you make those people into their own category, right? Protected lobbies, which pushes the skills brackets up for everybody else, and then you take the top level players and you try and force them to play amongst themselves, and then everybody else that's left, they're either playing at their level or above their level, or they're being shoved into the top bracket, right? And so the way the system is designed, because it clearly works off of some form of percentage. There's some cutoff level, right? It's not like other games like Apex where, you know, your protected brackets for the first 20 games or the first, like, you know, until you get to a certain threshold of skill or something like that. It's a percentage base. Like they're taking a percentage of the skill bracket and protecting it. And the problem is over time, you know, you're going to lose the bottom of that bracket one way or the other. Either they get better and they're no longer the bottom, you know, 2%, you know, 10% or whatever, or they quit, right? And so that goes away. And so the protected bracket is constantly eating the bottom of the player base. It's constantly siphoning more and more of that player base away from the general matchmaking, which in every model ruins the game for everybody else. Everybody has a terrible experience or a significantly worse experience because your lobbies are significantly more challenging no matter what you do. And then you get to the top level where those guys have the ability to break matchmaking and they go and they get to ruin it for the bottom players. So now everybody loses. The only way to play and have success is to break matchmaking and play, you know, no thumbs Timmy, who's worse than the AI bots we have now, right? That's the only way people can have fun.
Sure.
And so the only people that get to have fun are the top level players because the matchmaking will break for them. Everybody else, despite what the companies tell you when they sell you their VPN, it doesn't work that way. You have to have a high enough skill rating for it to break the matchmaking and not just find a way to put you back in.
Yeah, because, you know, I tried one for, I think, a month or so. I tried one and I didn't really notice a huge difference. I mean, maybe a little more randomness at the time, but I'll tell you, since I haven't used it, you know, because it's on another PC. I don't have it on this one, but like I feel my experience right now is way more random. And that's what I like. Like, I've said this several times. I don't mind playing against players that are better than me once in a while. And if I get farmed, fine. I don't like it, but whatever. I just want to be able to farm kids too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just give me the balance. That's all. I don't want to play bots the whole time. Like, I definitely don't want to do that. You know?
So if you look at how Fortnite did it, right? What Fortnite did is they have a graduated scale. So the more the worse you are at the game and or the newer you are at the game, the more bots you face.
Yeah.
Right. I think right now they're saying it's up to, like, you could have up to 92 bots in a 100 player game if you were brand new to the game. But as you progress in skill, right, the number of bots reduce.
If they do it that way, I think that's pretty good.
And that way, you know, if you are truly bad at the game and you are truly not getting much better, you continue to face AI bots for the majority of your engagements. And then, of course, the very end, you know, to win the game, you do have to kill some humans in order to win the game. And then as players progress in skill, the number of bots get reduced. And at the end of the day, the game tries, you know, the game either builds a proper lobby or it doesn't, you know, or it fills the lobby in a way that produces enough bots to make the game work. And I think that's kind of the mindset that Call of Duty is going to have to go with, because look, nobody wants to spend their time fighting 128 wall licking, walk in circles, can't hit shit robots.
Yeah.
That's no fun. It is. It's no fun, right? Like, you can, you know, it might be fun once, or if you're doing goofy stuff, right? Like if you're trying to win the game with only the starting pistol. Okay. It makes it more interesting, right? Makes it more feasible. But as far as actually playing the game, it's going to get boring real fast for people. That's why multiplayer games have outpaced single player games, because you can only play single player games for so long against the same kind of people, you know, same kind of AI over and over and over again before you get bored of it.
Well, that's what you and I talked about too, dude. Like, that was the whole point I even got into online gaming, was to play against other people. Like,
yeah,
I've been a gamer my whole life, and I've played against basically AI the majority of that time until, about 2004. Once, Xbox Live came about, I was able to play against other people, and it's a dopamine hit for me. Like, so I have not had any dopamine playing casual, but I'll tell you, the first day I ran solo Resurgence, I ended up choking this fucking win. I'm so pissed at it. I got second. But like, dude, the last like 3 minutes of the match, like my heart was racing, dude. Like I was like, that's that feeling, dude. Like that's what I play for. I play for that hit.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's one of those things I think where, you know, think to last year, right? If you had last year's experience 24/7, would you ever play the game again?
No.
Like, would you? No, you'd have moved on, right?
Yeah. I would have had to, because it was starting to fuck with my mental too. God. It's kind of hard to stream and be in a good mood when you're fucking pissed off at the game all the time.
And I think so Call of Duty has to find a balance. And unfortunately, right now, I don't think they have the player base to simply turn off matchmaking, because there just aren't. There aren't enough. And I'll put it this way: there aren't enough bad players to create the kind of curve, like skill curve, that you need in order to actually play the, like, to balance the lobbies, right? Because what you need, so in every model that I did, in order to have like an outcome that didn't either create an incredibly sweaty lobby for everybody, or create a lobby in which, you know, the good players would just dominate every game, there had to be a skill curve to it, right? It's like a bell curve is what I'm talking about, right? So you have like the majority of players are kind of in that average bracket, right? Which in Call of Duty sits around a 0.8 KD plus or minus, depending on the game. And so, like, you know, in 100-person lobby, right, 60 of those people should be between like a 0.7 and a 1 KD. Like, that should just be the majority of the lobby. And then you have outliers on both sides. And, you know, in that sort of scenario, the randomness that we want exists, right? Where most lobbies aren't going to have a 2 KD player in them. If they have one, it's one person, right? Versus now, where it's like, if you get into a lobby with a 2 KD player, there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 of them in there, and you're going to get steamrolled at some point. And it's probably sooner rather than later that you get steamrolled out of it if you're an average player.
Yeah. Versus
a game that has, and one of the things I'm trying to do is interpret the data that we had, that they gave us in Caldera, where, you know, they gave us the tracks of everybody that played, you know, a bunch of matches in Caldera, and you can track these players, and, you know, the top skilled players don't always make it very far. You know, a lot of times they ego chalice squad and they get, you know, they disappear.
Stop stacking. You're playing solo quads,
exactly.
Dummy.
So I think there's a lot. I think that the system they have now, I think they understand it doesn't work. I think there's a fundamental understanding that it's not working. And the solution, you know, unlike what everybody wants of just turning it off, also isn't going to work, because they don't have the distribution of skill to make it work. Right? And so if they build a system in which you have random assignments in a lobby, but lobbies that, you know, or not random, yes, random assignments in a lobby, but in lobbies that are designed to, kind of like spill in along the skill curve, right? Where it's like the lobby might have one spot for a team of, like, you know, top 1% players, right? One spot for a team of, you know, of bottom 1% players. And then it just kind of like, they just fill the lobby. And when they can't fill it, right, there aren't players in the lower chunks of the bracket to fill that lobby. Then you start filling it with bots to make it go, without resorting to the kind of matchmaking that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ultimately will, like it did for Fortnite, provide a balanced experience where, yeah, in the first circle, you might run into some AI bots. You might even run into the second circle. But as the game progresses, you're running into more human players, and that should be the goal. That should be the purpose of using these bots. And I can see them building towards that. Maybe we won't make it in this game, but we'll, you know, I think going forward that they're gonna have to do it. to keep the game thriving, because they don't have the number of like the depth of the player base that they need to have to get rid of their SBMM system.
No. Yeah, I don't know, man. If like you said, if it truly is like a sliding scale, I would prefer to play more people in my lobby than bots. But if there are some, fine, whatever. Like if it works,
I think it's important that you don't notice them.
Yeah, I don't want to notice them. That's the other thing. Like, like
I think that's important, and I think when you play casual now, I think it's the more you play, yeah, there's the easy ones to spot, but there's also a lot of bots that are very questionable.
But also, too, there are guys like myself, not high skilled in any way. That's not what I'm saying. But I play this game a fuck ton. Like, even though I'm playing half right now what I normally do, it's still a lot more than most people. Like, I'm going to be able to tell the difference in a lot of cases, in a majority of the cases. And I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, it's, they're getting better. And they're adding, I think as the season progresses, they're adding more and more of these players that don't know. Or they're adding more of these bots that are kind of the higher level bots. And they're very similar or superior to kind of the lower echelons of the player base.
Did you see what Drade and Shep and some of the other guys are doing? They're going into casual solos and just fucking going so hard and sweating their dicks off, just trying to ruin shit for people. And it's
it's interesting because how do I put this? It's not going to change anything.
It'll still make them feel better.
Well, good. I think it's great, and I think players should do that. So I ran the numbers. I decided so not that I'm a huge numbers nerd, but I am. Decided to see what the difference is between two boxing into a lobby, versus playing casual and going balls out either way, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of how much you can ruin the day, and if you two box into a lobby, and like you get into a burger lobby and you run that lobby, I mean, what's what are you going to put up? Like 30, 40, 50, maybe something like that. But if you let's even say squads, right? Like if you have a squad of above average skilled players and you two box into an actual like bot lobby, like your squad might put up 100. So out of 150 players, you're going to kill 100 of them at some point as a squad. If you take that same squad and you throw them into a casual and you tell them to go ham and they put up 100 there, that 150 players from the original lobby is spread over 23 lobbies. You literally cannot ruin as many games, like as many days as everybody than you would there. So like even going ham, and this is kind of the point, like when we've talked about like the kill races and these other efforts that high skill players have done to kind of like ruin casual mode, right? I don't think it's possible because there aren't enough highly skilled players in the game. Like there just aren't. And so like every lobby that a highly skilled player could ruin is actually, there's 22 other lobbies that are going to be just fine. And that's why casual mode, I think, is thriving the way it does. And it actually increases the randomness of it, right? Like the randomness that you talk about that you and I both enjoy. It's like it creates that randomness because we're going to go and we're going to have we're going to hop into a lobby, and instead of like, oh, we're going to hop in a lobby with Shep or Drade and they're going to just steamroll us, right? Now we even have the odds that we get into their lobby is, one thing, and then divide that by 23. And that's the odds that you'll actually run into them into a lobby. And if you do run into them, you died, you tried, start over.
Hey, let me say this to you. Let us have our illusion of vengeance, sir. Just let us have it, okay?
The bots you're killing have no feelings, even the human ones.
No,
they just reported you for cheating anyway.
that's fucking hilarious, dude. But no, Lizard, basically what he's saying is there aren't enough of you guys out there that could actually ruin the casual mode for a lot of people. You might, it's one-off stuff because y'all are such a high percent, or you're high up on the player skill list, but you're such a small percentage. Whereas the rest of us, we're a bigger percentage as you go down. That's how.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just no. Even in a random lobby, right? Like the odds of me running into somebody of Lizards or Sheps or Drade's skill is so low. But okay, so I'm talking as though everybody understands where I'm at, right? So basically, like, if you look at the number of human players in a lobby, right, it's 150 players. So if you look at the skill distribution of that lobby, right, let's assume that you two boxed into that lobby. So 100, of solos, right? We're talking about solos at the moment. So 149 players are going to be probably a 0.5 KD or below for a true burger bot lobby. We call it 0.7, whatever. 149 players there. One player will be a 234 KD, right? A top 0.001% player. All right. That top player will steamroll that lobby and trash 30, 40 players, maybe more. Right? They will just steamroll that lobby and just trash that whole lobby. And so all of those people had a terrible experience. And when you have somebody of that skill level, it actually creates a weird effect, like where people run away from that as they become aware of it. And it actually increases congestion in other areas as people try to avoid like a high skill player as much as possible. And so in lobbies, in these bad lobbies, right, it actually ruins the game for a lot of people because all of a sudden the player density is not spread like it normally would be in a standard mode, in a standard map. And so everybody's going to have a bad time. But in casual mode, right, in casual solos, there's only like 20 something players. All right. Everything else is bots. So the same 149 players or 150 players if they all queue in at the same time, instead of getting put into one lobby, they get spread over about 20 different lobbies. So that one player who's going to ruin the match doesn't get access to that many players. They only get access to the small sliver of players that they get assigned to. So everybody else has a good time. So that means if you're going to play and I queue in, if I'm going to play and I'm, a worse bot, right? I don't know what to do. How do I play this game? And I hop in and in my first game on, I get steamrolled by Lizard. I queue in again. I'm not going to run into him again. Right. So I don't, it's a 1 in 20, I think it's a 1 in 20 chance or 1 in 22 chance that I run into that player if everybody queues simultaneously.
Well, that's what you and I talked about before you put together your numbers and everything, didn't we? And that was my point to you, was players like that are such a small percentage. The rest of it, you know what I mean? So the actual odds and chances of running into somebody like that on a consistent basis. See, that's the thing. I think sometimes people think that if you run into them once in a while, like there's those people that run into them once in a while and it's the fucking end of the world, right? But consistently match in, match out, running into those players. Now that wouldn't be fun for anybody. It wouldn't be fun for me. Wouldn't be fun for you. That kind of thing. But if it's once in a while, the chances of it happening on a regular basis is pretty slim.
But under the current SBMM system, it actually increases dramatically. So under the current system, if you take away the bottom of the player base, and casual mode as a separate mode exemplifies, it increases this so much more. So the odds of an average or below average player who is not protected, right, hops into pubs, what's happening is you're screwing with the available player pool, right? So casual is going to pull a good percentage of the bottom level players right now. I think it's fair. I don't think anybody would argue the point that there's a lot of players that are not playing standard BR. They're just staying in casual, which upsets the balance, the pool of players that you can pull from. Okay.
Yeah.
Which means that everybody else is going to be thrust into higher level, up against higher level opponents than they normally would. Right. Which means kind of like last year, right? How you were just always being thrown up against really tough opponents all the time. It's because there wasn't the balance, like the pool of players was reduced, and we know it was reduced because we've seen numbers now. So we know there just was a whole segment of the player base that didn't show up for MW3.
Yeah.
And it felt it in the matchmaking because the player pool was reduced. And I think we're seeing that. I think for a lot of people, we see that in pubs. You might not see it as much because of your location and the time that you play, but I see it endlessly.
Yeah.
Like I run into players and with top 250 iconery probably once a week. Whether they got it through cheats or otherwise, it doesn't matter because, they're either are that skilled or they're cheating, in which case it means I'm in a high skill lobby anyways. So, it has ruined pubs as a whole, right? You just can't create an enjoyable experience under the current system. And that's something that with casual mode, because it creates so many more games for the same number of people that you do get to have the random experience. They don't have to try and balance the skill level because there just aren't as many people in a lobby, and they use bots to balance the experience.
Yeah. And I'll tell you too, that randomness has put me up against people way above my skill level. But you know what? I think also that's given me some confidence too, because I've either killed or gotten really damn close to killing some of these really good fucking players that everyone knows. And
I think running to that once in a while is a really good experience. And it's one of those things that when you have a full blown random experience, it gives you the room to play. It gives you the room to learn, right? Like if you're playing something and you've got a small, how do I put it? If you're playing and you have a really like a small but highly skilled pool, you're not going to learn as much. The odds that you stick around to learn are much lower, right? Versus if you have a wider pool where some people are at your level, some people are below your level, and some people are above your level, then you have room to learn and you have room to expand. And it's something that so I played hockey for years, right? And I would run into this all the time where if you go into an open scrimmage, right? And I've gone into those where it's like 3/4 of the people are all D1 and D2 college kids home on break, right? And they're really good. I would never touch the puck ever. But I play in the skill bracket where, I would play in a skill bracket above my usual skill, like as a sub on somebody's team. And because everybody is closer in skill to me, even though a lot of them are better, right? It gives me room to work with the puck. It gives me room to play. It gives me room to stretch my skills and push myself without being left behind. And so the ability to get better was much more improved. And so playing that made me a better player versus playing some of these pickup games against, players that are so far beyond my skill level. I don't get to practice anything because I don't ever get the puck.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of that's how the experience relates to kind of like Warzone, where it's like, if you want people to improve, they have to have the ability to actually compete. And I think, you're at the point where your skill level is reaching the point where it's like you can kind of like hold your own a little bit in certain scenarios against much higher skilled players. But somebody who is, doesn't play as much as you or doesn't have that mindset of like trying to improve will just get vaporized before they even know what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think, that if that's the constant experience for them, they're not going to play. They're not going to get better, and B, they're not going to keep playing.
Well, it's a mindset too. There's a lot of people out there who just simply don't want to get better, which is foreign to me. I don't have that mindset, but I fully recognize there are people who just, they want to just chill or whatever. And so having that mindset though has made it to where like they have to be or have the illusion that they're either in bot lobbies with bots, or they're protected because they simply just can't take their L and move on. I mean, we're playing a game with a winner and losers. Or score.
Yes.
So you're not going to win every time. In fact, most people are going to lose more than they win. Like, people just can't take their L and move on. And I think that's why we are where we are. And I think that you are 100% spot on of what's going to happen, sliding scale bots, all that stuff. And it's just going to be up to players like myself and players that are significantly better to make the decision as to whether we want to continue playing a franchise that does that or not.
Well, I mean, Fortnite did it, and they, from the time they instituted the bots, over the next 5 years, they grew 400 million players. So clearly, the fact that there are bots doesn't change the fact that the game, didn't change the viability of the game, right?
But what Fortnite has done that Call of Duty has not is they have not let their ranked mode turn into a fucking dumpster fire because you got people cheating left and right. I mean, like, that's.
Have you been on the Fortnite community? Because cheating is rampant there too. It's no better than here. But here's the thing I'm going to point out: Call of Duty has the same cheating problem that everybody else has, and anybody who says that some multiplayer competitive game is better than Call of Duty, even Valorant is infested. Valorant's benefit is that they have smaller play groups, so that the same number of cheaters, again, just like casual mode, is spread among a lot more matches. So, like, you will go more matches without running into a cheater because there are more matches because there are fewer players per match.
But we've acknowledged on this very podcast, though, that those other franchises do have better anti-cheats than Call of Duty. No, we both have acknowledged that. So
it's because they're being monitored. Right. And Call of Duty is making shifts. I can't say that Call of Duty is not making shifts. They're not being as aggressive and fast enough. But I mean, EO just got detected again. They got, so they got slammed this week. And cheaters are getting banned at a much higher rate, even without detections. And I think this is an important distinction, that detections of a cheat provider, right, are the thing that gets and the ban waves that come from it. But just every day, cheaters are suddenly getting caught and banned. And it's through the AI system. And I'm also going to point out that one complaint that I've seen kind of drop off in most scenarios is the shadow ban system. We're not seeing people get shadowed at the rate that they have been in the past. I think their AI system is partly responsible for that. The system is running yes, and I know some people are in the loop and they're getting shadowed regularly, but the frequency of it is definitely lower, to the point where it's like people are not getting shadowed without, I'll put it this way, they're not getting shadowed without playing like weirdos at the rate that they used to be. I mean, it was, if you rewind the clock 3-4 months, people were getting shadowed endlessly. It's all you could hear on the timeline.
Well, 70%
people
of the World Series of Warzone competitors were shadowed at one point. Remember that?
Yep. And it was just like, and a lot of that came from reporting, right? The whole lobby would report a good player, whether they two-boxed into it or just people saw the name and said, fuck that guy, right? Like, both of those things were true. I think what they've shifted to with the anti-cheat is, they demoed this system, or at least a part of it, where the AI kind of like had that graph, right? It would go along and say, oh, well, here's the here's the likelihood that someone's cheating, right? And it would be like, oh, you're tracking somebody through the wall, and it would like ping, and then you're shooting them through the wall where you can't see them, and you're hitting every bullet, right? Like that sort of behavior is definitely different. Is definitely it is definitely taking over, but the game wide reporting isn't there anymore. You can't report somebody more than once in a game.
Dude, have you?
They've taken that away.
Yeah, which so I'm not getting any back. Like I don't report a lot of people, but I'm not getting anything back. At all. So
but I think they turned that off. But it used to be you would be shadowed for just showing up because everybody you killed would report you, right? Like, and now I think the way the system likely works is somebody reports you and you get put into a queue for AI to analyze. And then whenever AI gets along, right, it will start analyzing that and start analyzing other clips. And then it'll determine whether or not you need more review. And so somebody who is kind of maybe I'm trying to phrase this right so I don't get called out on it later. But somebody who plays kind of on the edge where maybe they've got their audio tuned to a T and they hear somebody and they can they're hearing somebody through the wall. Like Gulag's big for this. Or there's just anticipation, like that sort of thing will probably flag in the AI system. But for other people who are if you're just out slamming kids because you're up against kids that are bad, like those sort of shadow bans that used to be really prevalent. Like I would like on my timeline, I would see 5 to 7 of those a day of someone showing a clip of them just slamming some kid. And then all of a sudden, the kid yells, "I'm cheating." And then like they get shadow banned, like they get booted. Like that has been reduced significantly. And I think part of it is because you can't report somebody more than once in a game, and not just nobody can. You can't spam report anybody. And I think that's been a huge change in the way that the system works, right? Before, you die, you can report them immediately, right? And then, they changed it, I think season 3 or somewhere, where it's like you can't report them more than once, right? So like it used to be you'd watch somebody and you just report. And they said they didn't track that, but some of the cheating systems showed you could override that, right? You could flood it with so many reports it just kicked over and banned them anyways. And so they've been fighting against that. And so now I think the system, the way it works now, is you get one report. If you get reported, you get put in this AI watch list, we'll call it. I don't have any details specifically on how it works, but from what they've said and kind of how some of the people in the cheating community have reacted, it seems like you start getting monitored. And the more games in a row you get reported, the more closely you're getting monitored, and the more sus you play, the more likely you are to get shadowed. And I think that kicks it into a manual review where somebody will then look at these clips that AI has collected and make a decision whether or not you're cheating.
So I will say this, and I don't know if you've seen the list, but the top 250 list right now is a fucking joke. I think I said that last episode, but I think actually what they should do, the second you enter that top 250 list, you should be in a queue for being analyzed and reviewed. Period.
I think you are.
I don't think they're leaving these fuckers on there forever, dude. I don't even know a majority of the people on that list anymore. And I keep up with that.
I know, but yes, but I think a lot of it has to do with resource control, right? They just don't have, and this is a difference between Call of Duty and Valorant, right? Like Call of Duty is building the systems that they need, but they don't have the human manpower. They're not investing in the human manpower at the scale that they need to staff it properly. So it's like, they're probably getting a ton of reports and they're probably being looked at, but whether, how long it takes them to take action on that, or, a lot of what they probably also do is they kind of, they'll batch, think about it in terms of like an IT desk, right? A lot of time, a lot of times they'll batch types of tickets so that somebody can just go through and slam out the same kind of thing over on repeat, right? So top 250 reports go into one bucket, other kind of reports go in another bucket. And so the same group of people will look at like, certain reports, and they'll look at other reports. And that's why all of a sudden, so like last week, right, we had a ban wave, there was a ban wave, and everybody, myself included, initially thought Hypervision was detected because a lot of users of that platform got banned, but it turns out a lot of users from other platforms got banned. And they were actually doing they'd gone through and they'd booted a lot of people out of the top 250. This was maybe like 2 weeks ago, I think the week before season 4 dropped. So I think the systems are changing, and I think things are better than they were in some ways, but I also think the number of cheaters coming hard is gone up as well. Like, it's kind of like a reaction of like, you banned me, so fuck you. I'm going to, try and slam you guys. The cheat providers are, from what I've seen, the cheat providers are also changing up their systems. There was one that did, I put it in a video, but they're basically like, they're trying to coach their players on how to avoid getting banned, because they are getting their players are getting banned randomly. Like, it's not like the old days, like before season 3, unless a cheat provider got hit, right, you had to use like ultra rage settings endlessly to get banned, and it would take a couple of days. Like, if you were just like spin botting, like, you would go a couple of days, those accounts would go a couple of days.
Let me ask you this, or I'll say this. I think the people that do the spin botting bullshit are a completely different breed of fuckface cheaters than the ESP and aimbot and walls, because it's like, how do you you can literally you get enjoyment out of just turning your fucking character and just.
It's just about ruining the experience for other people. That's right. Like, yeah. That is what it is. It's the same attitude that people take. And I've talked to a number of people who cheat, and it's like, that's the whole point. Like, that's why those modes exist, just to screw with the lobby, just to piss off as many people as possible. And like, and just, it's for that kind of self-pleasure of like, I'm ruining the game for somebody else. I'm, look how, it's like trolling. Like, look how mad I'm making this person. Ha. Right? Like, that's the whole point. But, and those cheats, they do get caught and detected and whatnot. But I think the problem lies in the people that are trying to play legit, right? And this is what that video was, this is kind of what that post was talking about, of like, look, there's different degrees of like legit, and the anti-cheat has improved where if you want to stay under the radar, you have to be much closer to human reaction time and human play style than you ever did before. So before, you could stare at a wall where somebody's behind it, and eventually, and just kind of like follow along and then start shooting when they pop out. Right? Like, you could do that and you'd be fine. And people did. And now all of a sudden those people are getting banned, and they're having to adjust their play style where they don't follow you through the wall. They don't snap on you as hard as they used to, right? Which, frustratingly, is going to make them much harder to find, because they look a lot more human than before. But also, it makes them more killable because they're closer to, humans. And so I think it's kind of one of those things where, we're going to weed out a lot of the bullshit, but it's also going to be much more difficult in the future to tell the difference between a cheater and a legit player. So it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, to be honest, as cheaters, especially the ones that want to be undetected, get better at hiding it than they have been in the past. And the cheats are going to adapt. They're going to adapt their cheatability to match that.
Well, I mean, and Activision needs to take the same approach like law enforcement takes, as far as, you're never going to be able to root out all crime, but you still have to have an active presence in these markets. So like, they have to stay active and try to be vigilant about shit and take action when they can. Like that's, and I will applaud them for those court cases and everything else, because I think that has, like you've said several times, made a difference. So yeah, I think they can't get lazy and take a laissez-faire approach to it, like a hands-off. Like they don't just leave it to AI.
They can't. They have to up their communication.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Doc over leading the Valorant team, like he's just in there all the time being like straight up trolling and going after him. And I think you have to be much more aggressive in that social aspect, right? You have to penetrate into the Discords, into the Telegrams. You have to find your way in. You have to find a way to get into the underbelly of it and live in there for a while to really get an idea of what's going on, and B, learn how to fight back against it. Because, and I think that's kind of where Call of Duty has failed, is like they'll do this AI engineering, and they'll figure out how to find a provider, right? For example, and they'll put all this effort into it, and then they'll celebrate their win, rightfully so. And then that provider will immediately go through and make changes to get better at hiding, right? And so it's kind of like, it's like germ theory, right? It's why you don't antibacterial everything, because it only kills 99% of germs on your counter, right? So that 1% that stick around, that survived, is now really hard to kill, and that multiplies, right? And so that's where we're at with cheats, right? Like that's why hypervision has been so effective, and phantom overlay before it was so effective, is that they got really good at staying under the radar and really good at hiding themselves from the system. And every time the system figured them out, they just burrowed deeper, right? And so now we're just at that stage where it's just really hard to root them out because they're so good at hiding it.
I want to see, you know what, dude? I want to see more of these people doxxed. Fuck them. Dox every goddamn one of them. Put it, like I wish there was a list, like somebody put like a shame list out, and like not fucking videos that like you can't prove, but like legit verified cheaters are like, this dude cheats. He works at McDonald's on 3rd Street Avenue. Go by and fucking throw food at him.
Slightly above average gaming podcast does not endorse, support, or encourage doxing or other illegal things that might be occurred in the state of California. The Slightly Above Average Gaming podcast absolutely recommends that we should not dox anybody, and that any such references are made in jest as a point of humor.
Well, I'm saying it in Texas, and fuck them. See that? Fuck them. So anyway,
but yeah, no, they got to find a way to be more assertive, and I think they need to clone GamerDoc and put him in charge at this point, because like he does it really well. He does a very good job of, I think, addressing and bringing to light as much of like that underbelly. But I mean, at the end of the day, Valorant still has a cheating epidemic. It's not any less bad than it is here. Even though they are more aggressive of rooting them out, they just come back, right? They're not able to keep them out, and that's the hardest part. It feels better in Valorant because it feels better in Valorant because they make more of a bravado when they catch one, right? They kick somebody out, they end the game, they throw up the red splash screen and say, we kicked a cheater out, so we're going to cancel the match. In Warzone, maybe you get a notice that somebody was banned, but it's not. You don't even know if it's banned. They could have been shadow banned because they got spam reported. Like, you have no idea what they're doing. And, accounts they remain fairly easy to come by. Unlike, unlike some other games that are paid to play, Warzone is free to play. So generating accounts for Warzone is not as difficult as maybe we'd like them to be. Yeah. But, cheating remains a thing. And, they're continuing to improve. We'll see. It was funny. I was in a Discord. We didn't talk about the hack. The game got hacked. Did you see that?
You put that out while I was working at that trade show. Sorry. But I know you're going to tell me about it, so you should.
So, there was a Zen Nerve, however you say his name, I don't remember. Posted a video about how his computer got hacked through Warzone. And he had a guy up on TikTok who was taking credit for it and whatever. And so he basically posted about how Warzone, the Warzone server, you could get your computer hacked through the Warzone servers, was the allegation made. And so that led me down the rabbit hole to check out the provider and kind of was able to get into their Discord. And it was hilarious because that was so full of shit. They got in through some other compromised software on the guy's PC.
The guy was probably clicking on like midget porn links or something, and that's how they got in there.
Or something, yes. And then of course, rooting through, there's like 2-3 guys bragging about their top 250 ranking using their cheats. It's top 250 is just, I don't know what they're going to do, but they have to fix it. They have to fix it because right now it's if you're above like diamond, you're probably, I don't know. I'm not saying that you're above it because I know a lot of people you're up there half the time, but like at this point, like people that are just, they're either getting to top 250, getting up to these top levels by being carried. They're getting up there by hacking. They're getting up there through paid services. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. Competitive Warzone is just like, I don't know how they're going to fix it either.
It's not really competitive at all in a lot of ways, but I mean, look at, like even Drake said, the number one guy on the leaderboard for wins got shadowed for 7 days, but you got some of these other rage cheating hacker pieces of shit able to just play unimpeded. That's wild to me.
Yeah. And again, the systems tend to, this is kind of where some of these systems come up where, if you look at, I'll reference how Phantom Overlay did it. Because I'm much more familiar with how their system worked and how the anti-cheat worked at that time. Basically, the way that the AI anti-cheat worked is if it got a report or if somehow you triggered it, right, they would take a series of screenshots of your monitor looking for overlays, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
For this cheat software. And so what Phantom Overlay would do is it had a hook in there that would detect the trigger. And so the millisecond before it started taking the screenshots, it would turn everything off. It would shut itself off and hide itself. And then the anti-cheat would take its screenshots. And then when it stopped, it would turn itself back on. So the anti-cheat analyzed what it got and said, oh, nothing's here. Right? Because the way the system worked, the cheat system worked is it would just hid itself when it was being looked at. And so the problem with the anti-cheat system that we have is that when the system looks at you, a lot of times, depending on how that look happens, there's ways to hide it. And so the really good players, like the really good cheaters, the guys that are good at cheating and not getting detected, a lot of times, like their system hides itself at the right times. Like that's just, and it's the unfortunate side effect of a computer first driven system, right? If the computer looks first, it can hide itself and then it doesn't flag and then a human won't look at it. That's just unfortunately the way it works. And so that's why someone who does play legit, but is at that skill level could, appear suspect because they have certain clues, they have certain knowledge of the map, there's anticipation that'll take place, and they can they're not hiding anything, but like that behavior will flag, versus someone who's running a high quality cheat. The software could hide the any evidence, and then their system will come back as clean in the anti-cheat in a way that a regular human won't. And it's kind of bullshit, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's a really like ever evolving issue for Call of Duty and gaming in general.
Yeah. Yep. And it sucks. But you know, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, and unfortunately, you know, it's like the common argument is just charge people for the game. But I think the ranked play experience for the multiplayer side of it, which is a $70 experience, kind of points out that that's not quite as effective as we'd want it to be.
Well, I mean, people are able to get codes to get free games. There's all these, you know, there's ways around it. Like how these people are so dedicated to like cheating in a video game is fucking unreal to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But, you know, we should probably talk about a little bit again, our next episode, man.
Yeah. So next week, special guest. We are adjusting our schedule, so we will not be live on Saturday. We are coming up this Tuesday, so very short turnaround. Tuesday night, 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time, so 5:00 Pacific, 8:00 Eastern, and if you're Mountain Time, you can do your own math. But we're going to have, I'm going to butcher his name because I am terrible with names, but Greg Reinsdorf.
Reisdorf.
No, Reisdorf.
I think so.
See, this is why I don't introduce names. That's not my job. But he is the former creative director for Sledgehammer Games, has headed up multiple Call of Duty titles, worked in the industry for a long time. He has an incredible resume. He has new project just dropped recently, which is a publisher-based program, which I really am excited to have him talk more about, and you know, just basically get a feel for, you know, the industry from an insider, right? Like, you know, we've had guys from Grey Zone Warfare, we've had some other, you know, insiders here and there, but you know, this is probably one of the most insightful podcast episodes we've done. I'm very excited for it. Jay, I know you've talked with him a bit more than I have about this, so you know, if there's anything that we're going to go after that I haven't mentioned, let me know.
No, that's it.
But yeah, next week's going to be, so tune in on Tuesday. It will drop again the following Monday, so there will be a long period of no episodes. My schedule has balanced itself out. My computer is no longer melting down, so I should be able to be broadcasting on time or putting stuff up on Spotify on time going forward again. And then we are getting ready for that episode. So yeah, we'll record on Tuesday, should be a live recording as usual, no episode on Friday, and then it'll hit Spotify and YouTube on Monday. With that, appreciate everybody sticking around. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you guys being here. We are as always, you know, our socials. Jay is on Twitch and Twitter at J007TV. I'm on now YouTube and Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Sub1KD. Any questions? As always, throw it in the comments. We love to see you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Later.
This has been Sub1KD, along with J007TV and the Slightly Above Average Gaming Podcast. We're logging off now, so we'll see you next time.